Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Esau and Macaulay podcast. I'm your host, Esau Macaulay. Today, we're joined by Malcolm Foley, who's dressed, for those of you on YouTube, who's dressed like he's an actual professor and scholar, unlike me, who dresses like I'm just jumping on the latest bandwagon. So welcome to the podcast, Malcolm. Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
And we also have joined on, who's actually wearing some Holy Post apparel here, producer Mike. They can't see it, but on the shoulder, there's a little bit of the logo. Mike, how was your weekend?
Not bad.
You doing anything this weekend exciting? Or anything happening?
Yeah. So this past weekend I was up in Michigan speaking for Moody Seminary's Center for Compelling Biblical Preaching.
Wait, you were in Chicago? You didn't pull up? Why didn't we just record?
I wasn't in Chicago.
Okay.
I was at their Michigan campus.
Oh,
if I was in Chicago, you would have known.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So. So you do that.
Speaking of traveling, well, I think we got to tell the people again, we're going to Boston.
We're coming to Boston.
Weeks.
Yeah, and people are saying no one's going to pull up because they don't want to come to the Esau and Macaulay podcast live. But there's going to be a live recording. We're going to sell out.
We're going to sell
basically,
out.
There you go. I think it's basically sold out. I mean we're nearly out of tickets.
Tickets are limited. If you want to come, you better buy one in a hurry.
Hurry.
Yeah.
Not right now. Listen to the podcast. And then go to
holypost.com/events and you'll find information on our Boston event with Esau. And then this Saturday, this comes out on Thursday. Yeah. In 2 days, we have a Holy Post live event in the Chicago suburbs that you're a part of as well.
Oh, I'm coming to that?
Yeah. It's on our calendar.
It's on my calendar. I'm looking forward to it. I kind of fluff off the Holy Post stuff. I'm locked in on the Esau Macaulay podcast right now. I'm already prepping my Boston jokes. I don't even know what's going on here locally.
Can't wait. It's going to be good.
So a lot of times, for those of you who actually listen to the flagship, they have this segment that actually, maybe it's not my favorite segment, but it's an important segment to, I guess, the culture of the podcast, right? Called the News of the Butt. Where it often deals with something related to an animal and the animal's hind parts, as my mama would say.
Yes.
Well, what we want to do is we want to class up Holy Post a little bit.
Okay.
And rather than talking just about the hind parts of an animal, we want to give you a broader perspective on the animal kingdom. With the story that I saw about an otter. Tell us about the otter, Mike.
So out in California, there's an otter who's decided that he or she, I don't know.
I don't want to stereotype.
Wants to learn how to surf. And this otter is hopping on the surfboards of surfers in California.
Otters are attacking surfers. Because an otter is looking at these people enjoying the waves. Like, why am I exhausting myself swimming all over the place where I can get on a board?
Here's the best part. Let me read this part in the article. Okay. That the surfer, the otter nipped the surfer. And then she jumped off the board, tried tipping the board over and shooing the otter away. But the animal refused to budge. And then after a brief struggle, eventually the otter relented. I just love that the otter was persistent.
What I'm saying to you is the otter didn't hurt her. It's like a little nip, hey, it's like they couldn't do the no. It's like, hey, I want to ride. So let me ask you this, Malcolm. Have you ever been attacked by an animal? Have you ever had an animal encounter that was less than pleasant, like our surfers out in Cali?
Yes, I have. So, soon after, so during my honeymoon, in the Caribbean, I was having breakfast just out on the balcony of the hotel room. I'm just having breakfast, and a seagull, I'm eating.
Okay.
Seagull comes down, grabs bacon off of my plate that is literally right in front of me.
That's a good choice, though. The bacon. They saw the bacon. It's a good choice.
Grabs it and just takes it. From me. I'm like, I'm never eating outside again.
Wait a minute. You just leaving bacon out in the open. I don't blame the animal. I blame you.
I'm in the middle of eating it.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of eating. And
it
swoops in, grabs it, and I'm like, what? The audacity, the absolute, the unmitigated gall you saw.
I will tell you that it is true that, and people think that I'm paranoid by this, but the animal kingdom, apart from my dog, absolutely hates me. Wow. I am attacked. I cannot live my life in nature without being attacked by animals. I've been attacked by birds, by cats,
the fall,
by
bro.
parrots, everything. And so I said to my wife, the animal kingdom hates me, so we have to be aware of this as we travel the world. She thought I was being paranoid. So we're in the Cotswolds. We're walking around England. She decides, let's just cut through this field and enjoy the cows that are grazing along the grass. Like, I'm not sure this is a good idea. So we're walking, and the next thing you know, this herd of cattle begins to take an angle to cut us off. At first, my wife's like, they're not trying to cut us off. I'm like, this herd of cattle is legitimately trying to kill us. She's like, they're not trying to kill us. And by the time we get there, for those of you watching, it gets to the place where they have now blocked our exit, and we have to jump over the fence to escape killer cows. I almost died. There was almost never an Esau Macaulay podcast because this herd of murderous English cows tried to kill me.
It doesn't seem like they were trying to kill you. It just seemed like they were traveling along.
And you were kind of in their way. No, they were going the opposite direction.
Okay.
They spotted me. They redirected and came in front of me so that I could not exit. They were like, literally, get out of our yard.
I just feel like so many of these stories, it just feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Esau is determined the animals are against him, and he looks for a way.
My wife said the exact same thing until she jumped over that fence. I said, if it's so paranoid, why are we both on the other side of the fence? I'm been attacked by goats. I'm just trying to tell you, if you walk with me in the woods, you need to be ready to fight for your life.
All right, I'll bring some bear spray.
Esau, this is just an indication to me that you're not holy enough.
Okay.
The saints,
I'm not saying
have control. The saints have control over the animals. So it's just the nature of the. It's just the extent of the fall.
I call myself an avid endorsement because outside is dangerous. Now. Everybody, see, unlike me, like I think that like the world's going to come to an end when the animal kingdom rises up in revolt. But the current real fear, and probably a genuine fear, is that the ongoing danger that AI poses to us. And a lot of times we talk about this danger in terms of kind of some kind of eschatological, like violent event with the AI will just decide it's like in its best interest to eliminate humanity. But what we have in the next story is the kind of the moral degradation of society that's happening through AI. And I think we said this earlier in the podcast that basically any technology is always used for like one of three purposes: violence, economic exploitation, and moral decay. So they recently released a statement. It's the ChatGPT guy, right? Do you have his name?
Altman.
Sam Altman has said that he does not want to any longer be the moral police of society, and they're going to release a new form of ChatGPT that's going to allow for, I don't know how to say this well, on a adult content. Personally tailored adult content that's going to be available into ChatGPT. I'm assuming you can put in whatever you want to do, and then, or whatever you want to see, and ChatGPT is now going to show it to you. And they're saying it is not their job to morally police.
Yeah, they're going to let adults be adults.
Yeah,
and so they'll still have age restrictions for those under 18. But if you're over 18, free for all.
So Malcolm, I mean, on one level, it's easy for Christians to say this is bad. But what do you think? I mean, it is bad. Let me not be flippant about that. But like, what do you think are the implications for this kind of technology for what it means for us to function as a healthy society, especially as believers? You should put what you put. You should put what you put in the chat. It was like everything is horrible here.
everything is terrible. I think what it's going to do is it's just going to place fuel on flames that are already there, which is often what technology may often make our lives more convenient, but in a number of ways it also just gives us more opportunities to sin more easily.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't even necessarily kind of make us more sinful. It just gives us in some ways more opportunities if we're not careful about making sure that everything that we use and have access to is used to the glory of God. Because the fact of the matter is, like, I mean, one of the reasons that they're willing to kind of open up these gates, so to speak, is because of how much money there is in adult content. Like that's what, like, even in advances in the internet and virtual reality and all this stuff, the industry that most significantly benefits from these developments is that industry.
Yeah.
And so this is so you can use the language of, you want people to be free to do it. But ultimately, as with many things, it comes down to a money issue. And the fact is that there's a lot of money in moral decay.
I want to say a couple of things. It is shocking to me how often companies are thermometers. They're just reading the temperature in the room. They're not setting anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember like when justice was in style, they were selling us justice and we care about you. And now that it's not in style, let's just go back to what actually makes money, which is like selling sex.
But the whole time it was about what makes money.
Yeah, I know, but it was the pretense of virtue. But here's the other thing. There are never victimless crimes, even when it is virtual. Because the dehumanization, I know that people say like, Esau, you talk about dehumanization. Well, if we would stop dehumanizing more and more categories of people, I would have a new take. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is that there's endless studies about the impacts of pornography addiction as it relates to long-term health of marriages and relationships with people who come out of these kinds of addictive activities who then have dysfunctional relationships with actual people. And so when you can now say, whatever it is I can type, I can tailor that to my basis needs. What is it actually going to mean to meet a real person who's different than you, who isn't designed to cater to every need that you have? And I think that this idea that we can simply type this stuff in, live out these fantasies, close the computer, in return, not just in our relationships, but what does it mean about what we perceive? And I'm speaking this as man. What does it mean about what it perceives as women? So if you spend all of your time looking at one thing, how can you perceive that your coworkers or the other females in your life as persons who are worthy of dignity and respect if you spend all of your time disrespecting them through the input of whatever data that you can have? And I do think that part of what it is the government's job, and here's the political part of it. Yeah, I do think that part of the government's job is to make it slightly more difficult for us to harm each other. Mm-hmm. Man, that's part of the government's job. So why are there limits on whether or not you can drink or drive? Because there's moral danger. There's limits about certain things around food that you can and you can't buy. And the fact that the government is not regulating this, they're just saying we are unconcerned with the harm, I do think it's a dereliction of duty. This part of the job of the government is to make not just sin in a broad sense of the category that everything that I disagree with, we should outlaw, but when there is a clear public harm that is being done, it is part of the government's job to make it more difficult, especially relates to kids. And I consider the second part of what they said was going to happen with the AI. What's the other thing they're going to do? So they're going to give you adult content. Yeah. What's the other thing?
Well, so the other issue with this is that there are more and more of these AI companions where kids are forming relationships with them, treating them like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. The New York Times has this article about this tragic story of a 14-year-old who was seduced by an AI bot and ended up committing suicide to be with his AI girlfriend. And there's a stat in here, a new study published on October 8th by the Center for Democracy and Technology found that 1 in 5 high school students have had a relationship with an AI chatbot or know someone who has.
Yeah. So we joke a lot, and it's not about this, about kind of the increase of social awkwardness of human interactions. And one of the jokes that I used to say to my teenagers is that back in the day when I was a kid, if you wanted to talk to a girl, you'd have to walk up to her like a lunatic in the mall and say, "Hello, my name is so-and-so. We just met. Can you write your number on a sheet of paper?" But there was a sense in which, like, or even before the era of text, you built a relationship through like communicating on the phone. And so we're getting further and further and further away from human interaction. And now it feels like there's this place where the need to interact with the human at all for some people is being completely taken away. That you can have not just it's awkward to talk to another person face to face, so it's easier to text. Now it's hard to talk to another person, so I can talk to this ChatGPT who can be my partner. Go ahead.
And as an addition to this, so when I do premarital counseling with couples, one of the things I tell them, because it's true, I mean, for me, but also I think for most of us, that one of the things that marriage does is it teaches you how selfish you are.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it's one of the main things. I think it's one of the main things that it really reveals to you, as any of your intimate relationships do. Friendship reminds you of that too. But any of your intimate relationships,
except for our friendship, we like when we became friends, I realized how great a guy I was. Like, I'm a great friend.
I am such a great friend.
Malcolm is so lucky to be friends with me.
I'm so lucky.
I say to my wife all the time, I'm giving you a point back. I say, I'm giving you the chance to grow in the fruit of the Spirit by exercising your patience.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry.
This is an opportunity.
Marriage shows you how selfish you are. Continue to go on.
How selfish we are. And given the opportunity, we will continue to burrow into our own selfishness.
Yeah.
And so this is how AI bots keep you talking. Is by continuing to affirm you.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like, it gets at something that's deep in us, which is just our desire to be affirmed. And so regardless of whether or not the things that I'm saying are right or healthy or whatever, for that quote unquote relationship, because it's not really a relationship. You're not having a relationship with a person. You're having a relationship with an algorithm. But that is fundamentally unhealthy, because what it does is it feeds our selfishness, as opposed to calling us to, like, actually looking to someone's interests above our own, which lies at the root of particularly the Christian ethic. And so when thinking of the ways that some of those quote unquote relationships degrade us as human beings, is that it actively keeps us not only from fellowship with one another and fellowship with the Lord. Like, fellowship requires someone different that you are actually, that like union requires the joining of two different things, like two actual different things.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
You got me excited because you're smart. I think that it gets at a fundamentally different understanding of what relationships are for. Yeah. And I don't want to make it seem as if Christians don't know anything about joy or happiness. Like, I think we believe that friendships and relationships ought to be sources of joy. But the other thing, and probably I'm going to say the overarching goal of some of these relationships in the Christian ethic, is they're schools of holiness.
Yes.
And like you said, I didn't want to step on your point about they showing us who we are. Sometimes we don't actually know our own limitations until we see ourselves in the other person. And the same thing happens with the other person. And so the goal of a relationship is to make us more like Jesus. If the algorithm knows exactly what you want and it caters to your needs, then it doesn't force you to grow. And so maybe I want to say, the algorithm isn't just wrong because it is not real. That's part of it. But it's also wrong because it tells a lie about what relationships are for. And I want to see if I can go like deeper into it. It trains us to think of relationships purely in terms of maximalization of personal happiness. And I will say this to kind of make this there. Like, in our friendship, I've learned a lot from you. I've grown as a person.
What's one thing you've learned? Esau? We're here with Malcolm, with our audience. You just said you've learned things.
What
just
about
one?
Okay, you don't need that.
Just one, Esau. Just one.
Why would I rank them? There's so much stuff that
I'm not asking. No. I'm not asking you to rank
let
them.
him count the ways.
Yeah, like, how can I count the ways? I have learned from you personally, like directly from you. Yeah. What have I learned from you? Hold on, I got one. I've learned. Oh, here it goes. I have learned that sometimes people have more than they show at the beginning, right? Producer Mike might have just like, I'm just here to work the sound. And Mike says, no, you give me the mic. We gave him Mike's Corner. He did good with Mike's Corner. And now he's a regular on the podcast. And so that shows you that you can go from being the producer all the way up to a periodic guest. And so I've learned from you not to put people in a box.
Wow. Esau.
There we go.
That was nice.
There we go.
Nice.
See?
Not bad.
That was nice.
Can you, in the edit, we need to cut out that 30 seconds when I was
took you to come up with something.
When I was struggling. But I do think that there is a role here for the church, because I was thinking about this as I was thinking this story. Mm-hmm. The church might be one of the last places on earth where you actually teach people how to interact with people different than them. Mm-hmm. There may be simply, like, we have a small group in my church. We all come from different areas of life, even before and after church. There might be this place where churches can be gathering places for humanity, and even not just on Sunday mornings. the fact that we still sit down and gather people from different walks of life to share meals together. So I think that might be one of the ministries of the church in the present age is to keep us connected to other persons.
Yeah. So you're saying that maybe churches shouldn't be so quick to embrace the AI revolution, but should be a counter-cultural example?
I would hope so. So someone sent me a screenshot a few weeks ago, and I don't know what they input into ChatGPT. It was like, who are like top Black Christian thinkers? And they said, Esau, your name popped up on ChatGPT. Wow. And I was like, part of it, here's the ego part. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. ChatGPT knows who I am. Yeah. Like, I'm on a list of 150 people. I'm number 142, but that's okay. I'm on the list. And so then I was like, I said, oh, who is Esau and Mike? I'd like put it in ChatGPT, and it gave me the whole CV. It's like, he does good stuff. And there was a sense in which I have no idea. ChatGPT said nice stuff about me. I doubt anybody goes, he's overrated. Like, Mike Strelo is an overrated podcast producer. Like, it's going to stroke your ego. It's like, he's an important part of Holy Post and not appreciated by his co-host, Esau and Mike.
Said that, huh?
I'm imagining, I don't know. I'm imagining. And so I do think there is a sense in which we're drawn to not just the anonymity of it, but the fact that we know that it's not going to surprise us negatively. Mm-hmm. That it's designed to continually like keep you engaged and to say more and more nice things about you. And I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, there's been a lot about AI is just a giant echo chamber. It tells you what you want to hear. If you have kids, no kids, or just like reading kids' books yourself, you have to check out Hello, My Name is Emmanuel by Emmanuel Jean Russell, an inspiring true story about Karen Kingsbury's adopted son that celebrates new beginnings, found family, and faith. Born in beautiful Haiti and raised by his loving grandma, Emmanuel's life changed when he faced a scary challenge. But through it all, he found the one who never leaves and learned the true meaning of his name. This heartwarming children's picture book offers more than just a story. It also includes inspiring resources for those interested in adoption, an interactive I Spy map of Haiti, and Haitian words hidden on every page. Perfect for read-aloud time, Hello, My Name is Emmanuel gently shares the adoption journey from a child's perspective, reminding kids and adults alike that God is always with them. Hello, My Name is Emmanuel is available now wherever books are sold.
Our next story is probably once again. I think this is not the sunshine episode of the Esau and Mike podcast.
No, it's not.
It's not. So
every time I show up, I feel like it's not.
You bring the rain. You bring the rain, Malcolm. So I have the algorithm. Speaking of AI, the algorithm knows that I'm somewhat interested in what our government says, especially on their social media. So oftentimes, the things that they post come up on my feed. And over the weekend, so it's over the last few days, there was this post that was made where, and I want to give a little bit of a background. A few months ago, when America was going to war with Iran or launching strikes on Iran, these young Black teenagers posted a video, kind of a silly video. And in the video, they're threatening like, hey, we're going to come and we're going to defeat Iran. At some point, it seems that someone repurposed that video from a few months ago and presented it as a threat to ICE. So now these teenagers who are saying something silly about Iran are now being presented as saying something negative about ICE, people who are involved in ICE. And the Department of Homeland Security, on their official website, on official Twitter feed, posted that video that depicts these young Black boys making threats to ICE, which they said they never did. And above it, it had just 4 letters, FAFO, which is kind of an acronym for mess around and find out. And there was this real, and the kids who made the video actually said, hey, I'm now getting death threats. Yeah. And one of the things that really struck me was how, first of all, our government is involved in like now creating memes and reposting stuff and issuing threats. And even when the kids denied it, the Department of Homeland Security said, no, you didn't. You did do it. It's this fight back and forth between these teenage kids and the Department of Homeland Security. And what made me particularly upset about this story was the fact that these young Black boys are treated as dangerous, so dangerous that they had to be threatened by our government when contrasted with the other story that was in the news today involving significantly older people who are described as kids. Now, can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, so this is, I'm sure everyone's aware of this by now, the leaked Young Republican chat. Politico published 2,900 pages of Telegram messages from young GOP Republican people. Men.
What were the ages? I'm sorry.
So the ages, yep. And then I'll describe the messages here. The ages were between 24 and 35. The messages referred to black people as monkeys and the watermelon people. It mused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about raping their enemies and driving them to suicide, and lauded Republicans who they believed supported slavery.
How did J.D. Vance describe these people?
And so J.D. Vance, and so we should say there have been a number of Republicans who have come out and condemned these people, including Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House.
Okay.
But J.D. Vance,
vice president,
vice president said on the Charlie Kirk show, grow up, focus on the real issues. Don't focus on what kids say in group chats. The reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. That's what kids do. But once again, should remind everyone, the ages of these gentlemen were between 24 and 35.
Malcolm.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, let me say this. I want to throw it to you in a second, but the question is, who gets to be a kid?
Right.
And this reason I think putting these two stories side by side needs to be really examined as to what it means to be young and black in America. And this idea that it was immediately plausible. With that, I am reasonably certain that the Department of Homeland Security did not do an extensive background check on these boys. They did not verify that their story was true. They saw an opportunity to repost content and gain engagement. It seems that that's what they did. I can't say that's what happened. It seems that that's what they did. And then they posted it. And the idea that these could simply, even if it were true, that these could simply be kids who are doing what kids do and therefore should not be embarrassed did not happen. It was like, mess around and find out. But what we do know, which is confirmed as actually being written by these 24 to 39-year-old men, they just became kids. And that's what I mean when it's like, it feels sometimes that blackness is automatically translated as danger. We don't get the sympathy or the empathy to simply be kids who are just doing silly stuff online, even though it seems like these particular kids, I need to be clear, weren't actually doing the thing online they're accused of. Malcolm.
Yeah. Emmett Till was killed as a teenager. George Stinney was executed as a 14-year-old. Tamir Rice killed when he was 12. I mean, there's, I as a historian of lynching, I think about the history of teenagers who are framed. When they're accused of a particular crime, they're then framed as adults, not only as adults but as beasts and demons. Like, I mean, part of particularly the way in which the black male is constructed in, especially the American imagination. I mean, it's as older than you are, threatening, not innocent, like that. Like, it's part of the construction. It's part of, really at base, the construction of the black male specifically, as threat. And it's just because it's been done, particularly in this country, for so many centuries. It's just it's just, there's a I mean, there are folks who study these kinds of depictions over the course of especially over the course of our history, but yeah, I mean, especially for black males, like we don't really have that I mean, we think about the talk of the way that we need to of the way that we interact with the police, just regardless of whether or not we've done anything, just because this is the way that this is the way that society is often going to frame you. So basically, I mean, the way that we're taught is like live defensively, like live basically because you won't get the benefit of the doubt. Like that's the kind of message that we get.
One of the things that go ahead. One of the things that I'm realizing is there is no floor. Like there is no line. We keep thinking that we can reshare, or we can post, we can get some information out. Then when people see this, they will see there's a real moral issue. And I just don't understand if you can read someone describing a black person as the watermelon people or monkeys, and you not be, and you don't take the moment to say, this reveals, and the fact that this was done in a group chat, where the fact that you can't see the moral problem that this poses, and you dismiss it simply as children being children when they're 24 years old, it shows that we think that there's some magical line out there that when this line is crossed, America's going to wake up. But even when I see, and once again, comments are the worst place to maybe judge the moral state of the country. But I've seen people engaging in deflection that, oh no, Democrats say horrible stuff all of the time. Hillary Clinton called people deplorables and all of those things. But at some point, you can't always deflect towards someone else. It is to ask the question of, what does this reveal about our inability to see evil or to see wickedness and to speak plainly about it as people who thinks that every single person deserves a baseline of honor.
Keep in mind, too, these are the very same people who are trying to claim racism is over. Racism, who have critiqued black people in America for, they see racism everywhere. They see it around every corner. When we've gotten over it, we have succeeded. And when these are the private messages, and these weren't nobodies as leaders of the young Republican Party. I mean, these are our future politicians, the future leaders of the country.
Yeah, and paired with that, this is I think a lot of folks see. I mean, people see social media in this way too, but they see kind of group text in this way too. That it's a space where I'm like safe to be careless, basically.
Yeah.
And I texted you this Esau, but that the Lord says in Matthew 12 that we're all going to have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word we've spoken. Yeah. Like that applies that applies to the things that we text. It applies to the things that we put out on social media. Folks are like this. This is one of the most disturbing things about kind of some of the last 10 years or so, which was that people felt like because there were other people who were willing to say wild stuff publicly, they felt more license to say the wild things that they think. And my thing is like, look, the issue is at the level of thought, which is the way that Christ also tells us. Like the issue is that like you ought not be thinking those things either. And so, but for many of us, when we see other people take that license to say the things that we would like to say, we then see that as, oh, it's perfectly fine for me to say those things too, as opposed to thinking through, no, like what is actually the most fruitful use of my words and my actions and my thoughts.
Yeah, I was going to say this. I don't want to be too negative in some of this stuff, but it does speak to the failure of a certain kind of perception of political progress. And there was this idea that if we can just get people to talk a certain way, that their behavior would eventually follow their speech. And there was this moment where this idea that if I say this thing publicly, it can mean the end of my career. What we're actually saying is that over those 20 years when there was a strong policing of language, that all they did was just take it underground and that it never actually went away. There's a transformation of the heart. One of the things I often ask is, what do you think happens after Brown versus Board of Education in 1954? All of those people who are pro-segregation, who are marching around and saying, keep our kids safe, and now they have to, begin to integrate the schools. You think they then went and told their kids, hey, go and hang out with these black kids. They're just like you. Or do you think that public racism went internal to the home? And so if there is a good that comes from out of this, is maybe we need to get to the place where, no, be who you are and let us assess who you are as we vote. Instead of lying about who you are and lying about what you believe, what if we actually clear about who we are and then we can make a real assessment? Because for a long time, this is what you're trying to get at. People called us crazy. That we're saying there's a race problem in America, there's a bias problem in America, that there is a double speech. There used to be, we had a whole category for it, dog whistles, right? We said, no, this language is working on 2 levels, because let me tell you, if there's someone who is used to detecting certain verbal cues of dangers, there's 2 people, the people who are articulating the racism and the victims of it. And the victims are really good at saying, no, that seems innocuous to you, but we know what this kind of stuff means. And this is not a dog whistle. This is the inner heart of people that is manifesting itself. And I'll say this, then we move on. I do believe that we are never as bad. We don't have to stay as bad as our worst moments. I'll put it that way. That part of what it means to be a Christian is to hope that people might change. This Sunday, this coming up in the election era, it's going to be the story of the tax collector and the Pharisee. I'm going to go full church on you for a second.
Come on.
And
now.
the tax collector was an oppressor. Yeah. He was the one who was manipulating people. But something in his heart, although he was engaged in the process of robbing people and exploiting people, something in his heart wasn't right. And eventually this tax collector goes to the temple and he prays to the Lord. And so what you would have seen from this tax collector before he went to temple that day was the external manifestation of his brokenness, but there was something going on in his heart that we couldn't see. And so I do want to pray that some of these some of these grown men. The tax collector was a grown man too, though. Some of these grown men who are currently benefiting from the oppression of other people and benefiting from dehumanizing language, I'm hoping that some of them got off that text stream and their soul was troubled. And that at some point they take themselves to somebody's church, not for the sake of some photo op that's going to get you out of trouble, but so they can actually become people who are dedicated to making a real change in society. Yeah.
But wait, Esau, it gets worse. We have more to talk about.
We got to do the last one. I was trying to filibuster. Our beloved president, who I pray for every single day, every single Sunday.
It's funny what you just said about your desire for the members of this chat. It's like, oh, that's what it means to love your enemies.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a few times, but this desire that like I want them to change their behavior, not for even my personal benefit, but so that I think they will be a better version of the human God created them to be when they repent of this kind of behavior.
I've run out of people. I just don't have the energy to hate people. I just don't. It's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
When I see this stuff now, I am outraged at what it means for the people who suffer. I'm outraged at the people who at the culture that is creating what it's doing to our young people. But on one level, I'm just kind of depressed by the inability of someone in political power to say enough is enough.
Yeah.
Like, what does it gain me to keep control of the House and the Senate and to lose my actual soul? And I'm talking about like the spiritual, like the deadening of your heart. Yeah. And forgive me, I feel like I'm like preaching. The deadening of your heart that it's required for you to see someone making rape jokes. Yeah. And to defend it and to punch back. To me, is something, it's a moral universe that I struggle to inhabit. Yeah. Now, speaking of moral universes, I struggle to inhabit. There's your
That's
transition.
A good transition, Esau.
The other thing that happened over the course of this weekend was the No Kings protest that took place all across the country. I think there's something between 5 to 7 million people participated. We don't know. But we do know that our president shared a meme, once again on social media, that involves him flying a plane. And over Chicago, I think it is, in particular Chicago. Yeah. And he releases
feces onto the protesters. This is an AI video.
An AI video.
Yeah. Of course.
And once again, I think part of the goal of that is to get the exact rise. Like, he did it. It worked. You got the rise out of me. You got the rise out of me. And I want to say 2 things. One is, what does it mean to see people who are legally gathered and protesting? For what we can see is they were largely nonviolent.
Yeah, they were.
That even if you disagree with the protest, as a president or someone who's a leader of the free world, people gathering in the streets to protest something nonviolently is a sign of a healthy, functioning democracy. And to respond to that act by posting a video that treats them as people worthy of having feces thrown upon them, it's, once again, it's content. One of the things that I think I've seen, and maybe it's helped me to process the last 6 months, is that it feels like the social media of this administration, it's content now. It's not actually an attempt to govern. It's not actually an attempt to persuade. It's almost like anybody else who I'll see in my feed whose main goal is to get a reaction out of me. But do you have a reaction to what we saw on our social medias over the course of the weekend?
Yeah, man. I mean, it is just an extension. I mean, for most folks, and this extends, I guess, to the government too, that it just becomes an extension of ego.
Yeah.
And as much as people now apparently kind of get their news through social media, but it's not a place to get news. It's a place for people to just, like I said, to just kind of spout off. So it's disconcerting. There are other thoughts about the No Kings protest as a whole. But go ahead.
Between that video and then Mike Johnson kept trying to rebrand these No Kings protests as the Hate America protests, the Anti-America protests. And it's frustrating to me because it's like, I actually think nonviolent protesting is about the most American thing you can do, especially when you are protesting against the president of the United States, that we live in a country where we have the freedom to publicly critique the leader of our country, supposedly without fear of consequence, without fear of retribution, without fear of jail time or anything like that. And the proper response from Trump would be to say, I completely disagree with what they're protesting. I think they are wasting their entire time doing this. They are acting absurdly. And you know what? Good for them to exercise their right. More power to them. I'm going to keep doing my thing. And so like, I don't, and then I've got another thought I want to get your guys' thoughts on, because I've had this tension this weekend of like, I think these protests, like, I'm glad people feel outraged about what they're seeing. And they are using their First Amendment right, and they should, and that is a pro-American thing to do. And yet, I'm not sure what these protests accomplished.
Don't get me started.
Saturday.
I'm sorry, not get me into trouble.
You want me to do it? I'll do it.
You go first.
You want me to do it?
And then I'll say what I need to say.
Martin Luther King Jr., the Reverend Doctor, in his letter from a Birmingham jail, has the 4 steps of nonviolent direct action.
Okay.
So whenever I talk about protests or whatever, like, this is what I always want to draw people's attention to. 4 steps. First, determine whether or not an injustice has taken place. It's the first step. Once that has been determined, the second step is negotiation with the parties who committed said injustice.
Yeah.
In the event of the failure of that negotiation, you move to the third step, which is self-purification.
Yes.
Because if you're going to engage in nonviolent direct action, you need to be a particular type of person.
Yes.
Because it is a very difficult thing to do. Only then do you then move to actual nonviolent direct action.
Yes.
So this is one of the reasons why folks had to be trained for this kind of work, because it's difficult work.
Now,
because as King pressed, like, the purpose of nonviolent direct action is to create a crisis. And if you create a crisis, that's going to put you in a risky situation. That's that's the intro. Go ahead. Do what you.
Now, I want to make sure. So the third part is the self-purification part. Is where I want to get into it. When obviously King is translating this to a secular context, but what he was getting at when he meant self-purification is prayer.
Yes.
And your own recognition of your own brokenness and your own need for redemption and your own need for grace. And the graciousness that God gave you allows you to see your enemy as a victim of a different version of the same lie, right? And so one of the things that marked a lot of the protests, and I want to say this is, and I don't want to be negative towards an old King's protest, right? But there was a particular goal or an outcome that they wanted to have occur. So the bus boycott, the goal was to integrate the buses, the freedom rides, the sit-in movements. And so there was a certain moral clarity that we all knew what it was we were protesting, the voter registration drives, to protest against some of the ways that they were preventing Black people from voting. But preceding a lot of these protests that you saw online, they would have worship meetings beforehand. They would have mass meetings where they would sing. And the music that often accompanied these things were spirituals. And so there was a sense in which there was as I understand it, a certain moral clarity. Not that everybody participating in the civil rights movement was a Christian. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that leaders of it engaged in that way. The No Kings protest, and maybe it's the fact that there's a lot of things happening at the same time right now in this country. It is basically, here are all the things that I do not like about this president. And so the question is, well, what are the actionable goals that comes out of this thing if you have a platform of 20 different issues? The issue is there are 20 different issues going on in the country.
Right.
And so when you have a gathering of 20 different issues, it's hard to imagine this protest affecting all 20 of those issues. And some of those issues are also mutually contradictory, right? There's certain things that people are protesting that other people who are in the protest may not also agree with. And so there is a sense in which I think that as a act of articulating corporate displeasure with a variety of practices, the No Kings protest may have been effective in accomplishing that goal. I do think that we do need to have some kind of actionable set of policies is almost the wrong thing because it feels like what is happening with in the extremes of the immigration is so clear. It's hard to say. It's hard to ask people to pass a law not to zip tie kids. But I mean, it seems like there's something. And that may be the hard part about this particular this particular moment because we're not just protesting laws, although some of those laws are unjust. We're protesting an entire vibe. And that's a hard thing to say. Like, how do you get people to change the way they perceive of another person? Yeah. And that feels like what a lot of people are trying to get outside and say. We don't like the way that it feels like our government perceives of significant portions of the population. And in that sense, the No King protest is good, but I do think it is different than the nonviolent protest that we saw that marked the civil rights movement. Is that fair to say as a mediating position?
Yeah.
You want to say more? You feel like I should come a little bit harder. Go ahead.
I do. Well,
go ahead.
No, because all I want to say is that, I mean, we as Christians, the entire New Testament is essentially written under a hostile empire.
Yes.
And I think there's this like we especially in our political engagement, we spend a lot of our social, emotional, political, and theological imagination being confused and obsessed with the evils of the empire, basically. Yeah. And I'm really deep. And this is granted, this may just be my political theology, but I believe that the Lord has given us an answer of what we do when empires do terrible things.
Yeah.
It's we love our neighbors, however risky that is. And I may not ever be able to convince the powers to operate by the logic of the kingdom of God, but I can, and my family can, and my church can. So when there are folks coming after the vulnerable in my midst, I can be a community that protects those people. Even in a situation where, because you mentioned the whole 20 issues thing, like the purpose is to overwhelm us. And then to make us essentially respond out of fear, and the people of God are not a people of fear. The spirit that God has given us is not a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And so that then is what we ought to be cultivating, not only personally but also communally.
So I was talking to someone at my church this last week, and it was after the service, and she asked me if I went to a No Kings protest, and we had a family situation come up that had to be dealt with, so we weren't able to go even if we wanted to. And I was like, no, did you go? She goes, I thought about it, I wanted to, and for a couple of reasons, she decided not to. But she goes, instead, I spent that Saturday afternoon thinking, how can I actually care for the immigrants in my community? And she runs the food pantry at our church. Yeah. And over the last couple of weeks, most people have stopped coming to our food pantry when it's open. And it's not because they've all landed these well-paying jobs and they no longer have a need for it. It's because they're terrified to leave their home, that many of them have had family members and friends picked up by ICE. And so she spent Saturday afternoon coming up with a plan on how we're going to pack the food every Thursday. And she's made phone calls to recruit drivers. And our church is now going to drive the food out to the people in need so that they don't have to leave their homes.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing that story. And I one, immediately was like, I will drive. Just tell me when and where. And two, I was like, what she did that afternoon instead of protesting it will have far more of an impact than had she gone to that protest. And I'm not saying to anyone who went to a protest, I don't fault you. I would have gone had it worked in our schedule. And I think like it's almost the bare minimum you can do if you are opposed to what you were seeing in our country right now. Like maybe it's a step up from sharing the articles on social media, but it's to those who went to the protest, it's kind of like, okay, and now what? How are you actually going to care for the immigrants in your community? How are you actually going to love your neighbors? What are you doing that will be an inconvenience for you, but will actually make a difference in the lives of those who are being oppressed and hurting right now?
There were 7 million people who were at the No Kings protest. But I'll know for a fact that we had the Target boycott when Target intentionally cut their DEI programs in ways that negatively affected Black and brown communities. And if you had 5 to 7 million people who consistently engaged in economic sanctions, then I think you would actually begin to have a transformation of society. And so there is this sense in which when I come outside and I do this momentary protest, and my son went to the protest, but when you do these momentary protests, it feels good to have done something. But what made the civil rights protests so effective is they were annoying to the people in power over a long period of time.
Yes.
So to create a crisis. And to do so, and the other thing about it is the reason the moral purification was so important is that you had to create a crisis, but you had to not dehumanize the person who you were creating the crisis for. Exactly. You had to always have it in front of you, the ultimate liberation of both you and the person who is currently oppressing you. And the only way to have that kind of attitude in the midst of ongoing significant mistreatment was to be transformed yourself. And so public protest and public advocacy was always linked to the interior transformation of the person, which is what Christianity actually says, that we are first transformed as human persons, that we become the kind of people who God wants us to be before we went out into the world. And as it relates to that also, the same things the monks did that, right? The monks went off into the woods, they prayed, they got themselves together, they fasted, and then they always came back to society with a message of compassion to the people who are most needed. And the monks are the people who are often most unafraid to then speak to the powers that be because they did it from a place of purity. Now, we're done.
Get it. Get it.
The Esau Macaulay podcast is a production of Holy Post Media, produced by Mike Stay Low, Stray Low. If you know, now you know. Edited by Seth Gorvet, like a Corvette. Music by Rob Knorr. Make sure to follow the show wherever you get your podcast and leave a review so more people can find it. See you next time. I'm out.